Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Patreon-sponsored review time again, and here's another on the checklist of things that I said I'd never do that we can cross off: a webcomic. Now, to be fair, my reasoning still stands on why I don't regularly review them. 9 times out of 10, they're a labor of love and not something professionally produced. They're usually humor-based. They can be longer than the average comic book, and even if they are bad, well, I've produced bad stuff too, and I feel like an asshole going after something that's not meant to be judged on the same standards as a Rob Liefeld book or an insane crossover. Plus, it's harder to find something that's truly atrocious and yet is also popular. Multi-million-dollar marketing campaigns find whole new ways to encourage people to spend their money on garbage, but with webcomics, if it's bad, you just close it and get on with your life. But as we've seen with these Patreon-sponsored reviews, people apparently want me to talk about things that don't suck. This is in spite of the fact that my entire brand of humor is built around riffing on things that are stupid. I can only say boner so many times before it loses all meaning, people. I have nothing else to fall back on. So which is Unsounded? Is it a quality work that has earned its place as having a printed version of it? Or is this some infamous dreck that will make me long for cow superheroes? I don't know. I'm only reading the first chapter and judging that. Read the whole thing if you want an opinion there. Let's just dig into Unsounded Chapter 1.
Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazons and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
Reading from a trade, so no point looking at the cover, but that being said, the chapters do have individual covers to them, both online and in the book. Normally I wouldn't talk about it, but why not here? It's okay. Shows off the art style nicely. A little girl waving to people in a cart while a dude tries his absolute damnedest to avoid any sunlight. In other words, me at a Renaissance festival. Chapter 1, A Reluctant Escort. Well, now we know we're in for pain. We're starting with an escort mission. We open with the little girl climbing up some kind of cliff. Yes! Yes! Finally! I feel like I've been tracking this Jigglypuff for 3 miles! The cloaked gentleman floats up on a rock as she continues. This is mine! All mine! I shall rule this land as its queen! She eventually abdicated the throne after a peasant revolt led by rocks and shrubs. And what is your kingdom called, your majesty? Setitania! By royal decree, it must be said with that font. As evidenced by her new kingdom's name, the girl goes by the name Sete, or Set, I'm not exactly sure on the pronunciation. She's apparently royalty and is being escorted by this guy, who is never given a name in this chapter, but goes by the name Dwayne. Apparently along the road, Sete stole the map, so they've been wandering for days now, and she refuses to hand the map back. And given the whole royalty thing, she's being a bit of a brat, and he can't refuse her. Although he'll still criticize this poor choice of direction. Never would I have agreed to escort you to your cousins had I known there would be these endless sidetracks. It's called a side quest, dude, and killing 20 rats resulted in that fancy +3 staff you're now carrying around. More interestingly about Dwayne, though, is that he is a zombie. Letter writing and reading? You're no proper attack zombie. Damn mail-order zombie catalogs! I requested an attack zombie and instead got a clerk zombie. They could have at least sent an accountant zombie to help with my taxes. Half the time you never bite not, eating brains don't interest ya, and you talk more than most blokes scratch there. Well, the alternative to him talking, Sete, is having to hear you talk, which given your propensity for eminent domain in this part of the land is preferable. He trips her over the cliff, which would normally mean regicide, but as evidenced by him floating earlier, our zombie has a few magic tricks up his sleeve. And if you look to the right, you'll see Spock catching Kirk nearby too. Once she's stopped from hitting the ground, he empties out her pockets to try to get the map back, revealing that she's stolen quite a few pocket watches from people. To be fair though, this is a fantasy story. She probably just entered people's houses uninvited and looted their treasure chests and garbage cans. She's low level. She needs to sell as much of this crap as she can. Unfortunately, it seems she damaged the map and all that remains is a tattered piece of paper. I see you and the map do not get on.
It's a broken map with too many words in it. I scored it in respect.
It said it didn't like my haircut. I challenged it and defeated it in honorable combat. Before Dwayne can figure out a plan, Sete shows her boundless intellect by bouncing off the cliff wall and tackling the guy that was keeping her from falling to the ground. They're fortunately close enough to the ground to not die, although falling into water also helps a bit. They're still fighting when they emerge from the water, with Sete even biting off 2 zombie fingers. Ew, that's gotta taste like year-old meat that's been soaking in a scummy pond. Dwayne repels Sete onto the shore and basically tells her that he's turning this car around and going home.
No, you forgetting your promise? You have to take me to me cousins or Da will tell everyone in town you're a monster.
Oh no, then people might think he's a vampire or something. Then I will move on. It will not be the first time carelessness has cost me a home. Who knew that a landlord could kick you out for not replacing the furnace filters? He continues as he puts his fingers back on, commenting how nothing is worth the abuse he suffered while on this trip.
Bite me tail with your abuse. I got important matters haunting me skull, and I can't be sobbing over your hurt feelings every 2 seconds.
You bit off 2 of his fingers! He actually starts saying that it's less to do with her crap in particular and more her family's, which out and out threaten to expose his zombiness, and he knows that she can't be expected to behave like a civilized person when her family is full of despicable criminals. And then he gets eaten by this weird-ass thing. That's 2 things now that have chomped on Dwayne. Maybe I've got it all wrong, and zombie meat is sweet and tasty. The creature, which looks to be made of trees, rocks, and roots, starts walking off, ignoring Sete, who seems only too happy that her escort has been eaten. So yeah, I think Dwayne's evaluation of her and her family isn't too far off. But yeah, she keeps talking to the creature, saying that by killing Dwayne, it has now earned the right to be her new protector. However, the thing just ignores her, drinking lake water as she continues to prattle on about how important she is and it has to obey her. Because, you know, she's kind of an ass.
Fine, if you ain't gonna submit, give me back the dead man. That weren't no free meal. I got horrible plans for him.
Unless you were gonna eat him yourself, I don't see how it could have been any worse.
Listen to me! Mind me!
Hey look, it's the internet! Deciding to teach the massive creature discipline, she takes out a knife and tries to attack it. This ends about as well as you would expect, with it grabbing her and tossing her into the water.
Attack zombie!
Holy crap, she can talk underwater! That's the first thing that she's done that's been impressive. Speaking of Dwayne, he awakens inside the, well, I guess, stomach of the creature, but that's a bit of a misnomer since the thing is made out of plants and whatnot. He finds another corpse inside of it, reduced to a skeleton by this point, and seeing it seems to trigger something in him. It might be a flashback to himself pre-zombie, it might be some kind of telepathic afterimage of the corpse, it's not entirely clear. But what I do know is that the art style radically changes into a Castlevania game box. After coming out of that, he locates a badge on the body that he recognizes. By God, what is one of their badges doing here? We cannot be so far west. My God, these bootlegs are even coming out this far! His train of thought is interrupted by hearing Sete outside continuing her assault on the creature.
That weren't no sort of lunge. You kiss your mother with that lunge?
So, in this comic, glomping is how people kiss?
Missed! Another miss! Mr., Mrs., Miss! Doctor, Lord, Lady, Miss! Mind you don't trip over your skirts, Miss!
And here's to you, Miss Robinson! My favorite WWE wrestler is the Miss! She's actually having a fun time with this, evading the counterattacks of the creature, saying it needs to do a better job against her if it wants to be her bodyguard, until it's finally able to grab her again and prepare to eat her.
So, you're now officially in me gang.
Don't do it, creature! The 401k is a lie and she makes you work weekends! Dwayne managed to get the creature to vomit him up, allowing him to grab Sete and run off with her, as she complains about him not being digested to feed her new employee. However, he finally explains what the hell it is. It would appear to be a mammalian entek, a wandering root. I thought them extinct, burnt when the woods of the Aldish Mids were cleared, but this, a sight incomparable. We must have wandered into its forest, its hidden palace, older than any edifice of man's. We are trespassers here, Sete, thanks to you and your poxy navigating. Wow, that's pretty interesting and unique, Dwayne. Truly a majestic thing to see. What will Sete's reaction be?
I wonder what Pokemon it is.
Well, not exactly. She bites his fingers again and takes the palace idea of his literally, assuming that there are jewels inside the creature. What need is a tree for jewels?
What does God need with a starship?
He explains that the creature, being a tree, just desires peace. Be peaceful to it, and it won't be hostile in response. That it's a unique life form, deserving of their respect and patience.
Balls to that! It's blocking the way! Burn it up!
Sete would later grow up to become Zap Brannigan. In his anger at her utter stupidity, Dwayne says that she deserves to get spanked, which gets her thinking he must be a pedophile. Admittedly, it looks like she's just saying it to piss him off, but then notices the badge he took from the corpse, thinking there actually must be treasure inside of the wandering root. Believing he wants the treasure for himself, she runs at the creature to attack it, and by this point the root is more than a little pissed off, so it smacks Sete away into a rock, leaving a not insignificant bloodstain on said rock, and it steps in closer, presumably to eat her. With no other choice, Dwayne asks for the creature's forgiveness as he sets it ablaze. When she later awakens, Sete sees the forest has been reduced to ashen trees as well. What's more, he doesn't answer her as he sits beside the corpse of the creature, clearly bothered by what he had to do. A spark of compassion finally gets through her head and she apologizes. Although in a crappy way, but it's consistent for her character. I'm sorry for saying you stink and never bite no one. And I reckon I'm sorry for the bites, though they left a piss-awful taste in me pie box. I still think you're useless and you use stupid words I dunno, and you talk too much, but I'm sorry you got burnt. And I'm sorry you're so ugly that mirrors don't shatter, they just turn black to keep your appearance from hitting them. Anyway, do you forgive me now? However, it is a sign that she's getting better, so he apologizes for some of his behavior as well, although she remains a brat even while giving up her overshirt for him to use as a hood. And so the first chapter ends with them moving on, but him proclaiming that they need a new map, since they've likely entered territory that he's not prepared for. But she's still fine with that. Yet where are we now?
In a canyon!
Which canyon?
The Grey Canyon that stinks like burnt-up zombie!
Blast it! In which country?
The one with the canyon in it!
Wow, Sete, you suck at geography even more than I do. Anyway, this first chapter is pretty damn good. First of all, the artwork is awesome, very detailed and full of expressive faces. The action is fully energetic and cool, flowing nicely. While it's a very basic introduction into this world, since the characterization is so strong, we don't need a lot of backstory and details. We know just enough to establish what's happening and not anything to bog us down. Sete walks a very fine line between annoying and charming, swinging one way or the other very easily, and I can see other people getting very sick of her quickly. As it is, though, I quite enjoyed this, and despite her crappy apology, she seems to have a relatively decent heart on her. It's just she's clearly at the very beginning of a character arc that will see her grow and change. Really, my only complaint about her is that her concern was mostly entirely for Dwayne at the end, and not the fact that her bottomless stupidity had resulted in the death of a unique, wonderful life form, and she seems to feel no remorse over that. Otherwise, though, good stuff, and I would recommend checking out more based on this alone. Next time, another Patreon-sponsored review of a European comic that I have no background with. Biggles and the Menace from Space. It might not be Star Trek, but we're never leaving outer space.
I'm sitting on my couch reviewing comics.
it that the little girl has bitten more things than the zombie has? Remember to check out the Long Box of the Damned 2016 bumper contest. Do it. Click now. Unless you're watching this on Screenwave, in which case you can't click on it. It's on my website. Go check it out.